Why do we have these weird structures that no one can really explain? And when you think about the fact that there's so much evidence that we were hit by comets, that we were hit by large objects. Like, I didn't know about that enormous crater that's in Antarctica.
In a world where information bombards us from all angles, it's easy to feel overwhelmed and skeptical about what we're being told. But what happens when someone known for their skepticism and critical thinking is brought to tears by what they discover? When Joe Rogan broke into tears over Antarctica, it wasn't just a moment of vulnerability, it was a wake-up call for us all. Suddenly, the icy continent at the bottom of the world became a main point of controversy and intrigue, challenging everything we thought we knew about it.
I didn't know about that enormous crater that's in Antarctica.
Yeah, there's a big one in Antarctica. I don't know that much about it, but another one that have you heard of Burkle Crater? That's another one?
Yes.
But why Antarctica? What secrets lie hidden beneath its frozen surface that could move someone like Joe Rogan to tears? Let's find out. As Joe Rogan's emotional reaction suggests, there's more to Antarctica than meets the eye. Whether it's the alarming rate of ice loss, the mysterious structures buried beneath the ice, or the whispers of government secrets, Antarctica is a place shrouded in mystery and controversy. In his tearful revelation, Rogan hinted at a hidden truth about Antarctica, a truth that defies the narratives we've been fed by mainstream media and government agencies. As one of the most influential voices in the world of podcasting, Rogan has never shied away from controversial topics or challenging the status quo. But when it comes to Antarctica, Rogan's perspective is unlike anything his audience has heard before. For decades, Antarctica has captured the imagination of explorers, scientists, and conspiracy theorists alike. Its large expanse of ice and snow holds clues to Earth's ancient past and potential future. But for Rogan, the truth about Antarctica goes much deeper than any conspiracy theory. Before we delve into what Joe Rogan found out about Antarctica, let's talk about what's currently happening with the continent. For the past 44 years, scientists have utilized satellites to monitor the expanse of ice floating on the ocean surrounding the extensive 184-mile coastline of Antarctica. Each year, the fringing waters of the continent undergo significant seasonal fluctuations. In late 2022, the sea ice reaches its maximum extent of approximately 6.9 million square miles, before diminishing to slightly above 772,000 square miles by early 2023. However, throughout these 4 decades of satellite observations, February 2023 witnessed the smallest amount of ice around the continent. Dr. Will Hobbs, an Antarctic sea ice expert associated with the Australian Antarctic Program Partnership at the University of Tasmania, noted that it became apparent quite quickly that a decline in ice extent was inevitable, with no close contest. According to Dr. Hobbs, there is a reduction in ice cover across all regions, spanning the entire Antarctic circumference. During the Southern Hemisphere summer of 2022, the sea ice extent dropped to 741,000 square miles in February 2023, marking an unprecedented all-time low according to satellite records dating back to 1979. However, by mid-February of the same year, the record from 2022 had already been exceeded. The ice continued to diminish, reaching a new low of 691,000 square miles on February 25th, surpassing the previous record by 52.5 thousand square miles, an area twice the size of Tasmania. During the Southern Hemisphere's spring, strong winds over western Antarctica battered the ice. Simultaneously, large areas in the west of the continent had barely recovered from losses in the preceding year. Hobbs explained that because sea ice has high reflectivity, it's resistant to melting from sunlight. However, if there's open water behind it, that can accelerate the melting process from beneath. Hobbs and fellow scientists noted that the latest record-breaking event, the third occurrence within 6 years, has triggered a quest for answers among polar researchers. The destiny of Antarctica, particularly its land-based ice, holds significant importance due to the continent's vast ice reserves, which could substantially elevate sea levels if they were to melt. While the melting of sea ice itself doesn't directly contribute to sea level rise since it's already floating, several scientists informed The Guardian about indirect repercussions that can happen. Sea ice is a protective barrier against the impact of storms on coastal ice formations. If its presence diminishes over extended periods, heightened wave activity can weaken the floating ice shelves, which in turn support the immense ice sheets and glaciers situated on land. A notable area of concern is the conspicuous reduction in ice around the Amundsen and Bellinghausen seas in the west of the continent. Despite an overall increase in the average sea ice extent around the continent until 2014, these adjacent seas experienced declines. This is concerning because the region encompasses the vulnerable Thwaites Glacier, often dubbed the Doomsday Glacier because of its capacity to elevate sea levels by half a meter. But what exactly is a Doomsday Glacier? Wait until you see what we discovered. 20 years ago, the world witnessed a chilling spectacle as an area of ice estimated to weigh nearly 500 billion tons dramatically fragmented from the Antarctic continent, scattering into thousands of icebergs across the Weddell Sea. The Larsen B ice shelf, spanning an impressive 1,255 square miles, was already notorious for its rapid melting, but the speed and scale of its disintegration caught even seasoned glaciologists off guard. In just 1 month, the 656-foot-thick mass crumbled entirely, leaving behind a shattered landscape that seemed straight out of a disaster movie. Glaciologists who had dedicated their lives to studying these icy behemoths were not only astonished by the magnitude of the event, but also by the sheer rapidity of the collapse. One researcher vividly described the scene, likening it to a colossal wall crumbling into countless bricks, each one representing a piece of Antarctica's fragile ice shelves. But as shocking as the demise of Larsen B was, it was a grim harbinger of even more dire developments unfolding on the West Antarctic ice sheet, particularly along the Antarctic Peninsula. At a gathering of ice scientists in New Orleans, grave warnings were sounded about the precarious state of the Thwaites Glacier, one of the largest and most significant glaciers on the planet. Extensive research conducted by British and American teams revealed ominous signs of instability, with significant cracks and crevasses forming both on the surface and deep beneath the glacier's icy facade. The implications of a potential collapse of the Thwaites Glacier are nothing short of catastrophic. This colossal ice giant, roughly the size of Britain, holds enough water to elevate global sea levels by over half a meter, a sobering thought for coastal communities worldwide. Dubbed the Doomsday Glacier, Thwaites Glacier is responsible for about 4% of the annual rise in global sea levels, making it a focal point of concern for scientists and policymakers alike. Satellite observations paint a grim picture of Thwaites Glacier's accelerating demise, with melting rates far surpassing anything observed in the 1990s. The once stable behemoth is now crumbling at an alarming pace, raising fears that segments of the glacier could fracture and collapse in the next 5 years or even sooner. The collapse of Larsen B and the impending threat posed by Thwaites Glacier are stark reminders of how fragile Antarctica's ice shelves are. It also shows the urgent need for concerted global action to address the root causes of climate change. As temperatures rise and ice continues to melt at unprecedented rates, the fate of Antarctica, and indeed the entire planet, hangs in the balance. It's a race against time to preserve our icy wilderness and secure a sustainable future for generations to come. Now, back to the ongoing events with Antarctica. Professor Matt England's warnings about the importance of preserving sea ice in vulnerable regions housing Antarctic ice shelves couldn't be more urgent. As an oceanographer and climate scientist at the University of New South Wales, his insights shed light on the critical role sea ice plays in protecting these colossal ice structures and the massive ice sheets they buttress. Without this protective barrier, we risk accelerating the loss of ice and triggering devastating consequences for our planet. Moreover, the alarming data provided by scientist Dr. Rob Massam from the Australian Antarctic Division and Dr. Phil Reed from the Bureau of Meteorology paints a vivid picture of Antarctica's changing landscape. In January 2023, an astonishing 2/3 of Antarctica's coastline was exposed to open water, a stark departure from the long-term average of approximately 50%. This unprecedented level of sea ice retreat shows the magnitude of the warming trends gripping the continent and signals potentially dangerous feedback mechanisms that could exacerbate the situation. The consequences of such drastic changes extend far beyond Antarctica's icy shores. As sea ice diminishes, it not only jeopardizes the stability of ice shelves and ice sheets, but also threatens to unleash a cascade of impacts on global climate patterns, sea levels, and ecosystems. From coastal flooding to disrupted ocean currents, the repercussions of Antarctica's melting ice reverberate across the globe, affecting millions of lives and countless species. But what exactly is the main cause of the ice covers reducing, and how long has this been happening? Let's find out. What's the main cause of the ice covers reducing, and how long has this been going on? Let's break it down. Antarctica's ice covers are shrinking because our planet is getting warmer. And guess what's causing that? Humans' love for burning fossil fuels, chopping down trees, and all the other things that release greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. In essence, the main cause of Antarctica's ice cover reduction can be attributed to a combination of natural processes and human-induced climate change. This phenomenon has been occurring over a significant period, but it has accelerated in recent decades due to anthropogenic activities. Antarctica, the southernmost continent on Earth, is home to the largest ice sheet on the planet, containing about 90% of the world's freshwater ice. This ice sheet plays a crucial role in regulating global climate patterns and sea levels. However, in recent years, Antarctica has experienced significant ice loss, primarily driven by rising temperatures and changing environmental conditions. As we mentioned earlier, the main cause of Antarctica's ice cover reduction is global warming, which is primarily due to the increase in greenhouse gas emissions resulting from human activities, such as burning fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial processes. These emissions trap heat in the Earth's atmosphere, leading to a rise in global temperatures. As a result, Antarctica's ice sheets and glaciers have been melting at an accelerated rate. The process of ice loss in Antarctica can be understood through different mechanisms. One of the primary factors is the warming of the surrounding ocean waters. As the atmosphere warms, ocean temperatures also increase, causing the ice shelves that fringe Antarctica to melt from below. This process, known as basal melting, weakens the structural integrity of the ice shelves, making them more susceptible to collapse. Another contributing factor to Antarctica's ice loss is surface melting. As the climate warms up, the surface ice and snow in Antarctica start to melt, creating pools of water. But here's the kicker. Those pools of water act like little sponges, soaking up more heat from the sun and speeding up the melting process even more. It's a feedback loop that's causing Antarctica's ice covers to thin out and retreat at an alarming rate. Furthermore, changes in atmospheric circulation patterns, such as the strengthening of westerly winds around Antarctica, can also contribute to ice loss. These winds drive warmer air towards the continent, further increasing temperatures and promoting melting. The timeline of Antarctica's ice loss can be traced back to the late 20th century, when scientists began observing significant changes in the region. Satellite observations and ice core data indicate that Antarctica's ice sheets have been losing mass since the 1990s, with the rate of loss accelerating in the early 21st century. In recent decades, the pace of ice loss in Antarctica has reached alarming levels. According to studies published by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, also known as IPCC, Antarctica is losing ice at a rate of over 100 gigatons per year, contributing to rising sea levels worldwide. This rapid ice loss has profound implications for coastal communities, biodiversity, and global climate stability. The evidence of Antarctica's ice loss is undeniable, and its consequences are already being felt around the world. As ice continues to melt at an accelerated pace, sea levels rise, threatening coastal communities with increased flooding, erosion, and saltwater intrusion. Moreover, the loss of ice in Antarctica is disrupting ecosystems and biodiversity, putting species at risk and altering the delicate ecological balance. The findings of the IPCC show the urgent need for action to address climate change and mitigate its impacts by reducing greenhouse gas emissions, transitioning to renewable energy sources, and implementing sustainable land use practices. We can help slow the rate of ice loss in Antarctica and mitigate the associated risks. The consequences of Antarctica's diminishing ice covers extend far beyond the continent itself. As ice melts, it contributes to sea level rise, threatening low-lying coastal areas and island nations around the world. Rising sea levels can lead to increased flooding, erosion, and saltwater intrusion, impacting millions of people and ecosystems. Antarctica plays an essential role in regulating global climate patterns through its influence on ocean circulation and atmospheric dynamics. As these ice sheets shrink, they mess with the planet's natural cooling system and cause shifts in weather patterns, ocean currents, and precipitation distribution worldwide. The loss of Antarctica's ice covers also has implications for biodiversity and ecosystem dynamics in the region. Antarctic ecosystems are adapted to cold and icy conditions, and changes in ice cover can disrupt habitats, alter food webs, and threaten the survival of species such as penguins, seals, and krill. In addition to its environmental significance, Antarctica holds cultural, scientific, and geopolitical importance for humankind. The continent serves as a living laboratory for scientific research, offering insights into Earth's climate history, geology, and biodiversity. Moreover, Antarctica is governed by an international treaty system that regulates human activities on the continent and promotes peaceful cooperation among nations. Addressing the challenges posed by Antarctica's diminishing ice covers requires concerted global action to mitigate climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. This includes transitioning to renewable energy sources, implementing policies to limit carbon emissions, and promoting sustainable land use practices. Furthermore, efforts to protect Antarctica's unique ecosystems and biodiversity are essential for preserving the continent's ecological integrity and ensuring the survival of its iconic species. By creating protected areas, regulating activities like fishing and tourism, and investing in research and conservation, we can ensure Antarctica remains a symbol of resilience and wonder. Addressing these challenges requires urgent and coordinated action to mitigate climate change, protect Antarctica's ecosystems, and promote sustainable development practices worldwide. Now that we know the reason behind the melting ice covers, we need to know who Joe Rogan is and how he's linked to this event. What is Joe Rogan's opinion about Antarctica's reduction in ice covers? Joe Rogan, the renowned podcast host, influential figure, and conspiracy theorist in the world of entertainment and media, has expressed his thoughts on various topics, including climate change and environmental issues. While Joe Rogan is primarily known for his candid conversations and diverse range of guests, his views on specific subjects like the reduction of ice covers in Antarctica have been somewhat reflective of broader societal discourse. When it comes to environmental issues like climate change, Rogan's approach is pretty interesting. Sure, he's had scientists and activists on his show who are all about sounding the alarm on climate change. They talk about how urgent it is to take action before it's too late. But Rogan doesn't just stick to one side of the debate. He's also had guests who question the mainstream narrative on climate change and offer alternative viewpoints. On one hand, Rogan faces concerns about shrinking ice shelves and rising sea levels from experts. They paint a pretty serious picture of what's happening down south. On the other hand, he's also exposed to skeptics who challenge the idea that humans are solely to blame for all the changes we're seeing in the environment. It's this mix of perspectives that makes Rogan's take on Antarctic ice reduction so intriguing. Instead of just buying into the hype or dismissing the issue altogether, he's open to hearing different viewpoints and weighing the evidence for himself. In this context, Rogan's views on the reduction of ice in Antarctica reflect a nuanced understanding of the complexity of environmental issues and the need for evidence-based discourse. One aspect of the reduction of ice in Antarctica that Rogan finds compelling is the scientific consensus regarding the acceleration of ice loss in the region. Numerous studies have documented the shrinking of ice shelves, the thinning of glaciers, and the destabilization of ice sheets in Antarctica, all of which have significant implications for global sea level rise. The evidence is clear. Antarctica is losing ice at an alarming rate, and human activities, particularly the burning of fossil fuels and the release of greenhouse gases, are major contributors to this problem. Moreover, Rogan is struck by the tangible impacts of Antarctica's melting ice on coastal communities and ecosystems around the world. As ice melts and sea levels rise, vulnerable coastal areas are increasingly prone to flooding, erosion, and saltwater intrusion, posing serious risks to human settlements, infrastructure, and biodiversity. The loss of ice in Antarctica isn't just an abstract concept. It's a tangible threat with real-world consequences that demand attention and action. At the same time, Rogan's critical thinking skills led him to question the role of natural processes and variability in Antarctica's changing climate. While human-induced climate change is undeniably a major driver of ice loss in the region, factors such as ocean circulation patterns, atmospheric dynamics, and geological processes also play a role in shaping Antarctica's climate and ice dynamics. By considering these problems, Rogan can gain a more nuanced understanding of the forces at play in Antarctica and the challenges involved in mitigating ice loss and its impacts. Ultimately, Rogan's perspective on Antarctic ice reduction reflects a balanced approach to environmental issues, one that acknowledges the scientific evidence of human-induced climate change while also recognizing the complexities and uncertainties inherent in studying Earth's climate system. By engaging with diverse viewpoints and weighing the evidence, Rogan exemplifies the importance of informed and thoughtful discourse in addressing the pressing environmental challenges facing our planet. As the debate over Antarctica's melting ice continues, Rogan's willingness to listen, learn, and critically evaluate the evidence will be invaluable in shaping informed decisions and effective solutions for the future. Rogan also acknowledges the role of human activities, particularly greenhouse gas emissions, in driving changes in the Antarctic ice sheets. The burning of fossil fuels, deforestation, and industrial processes have contributed to the warming of the planet, resulting in the melting of polar ice and the disruption of ecosystems worldwide. Rogan's discussions with climate scientists and environmental experts may have provided him with insights into the underlying causes and potential consequences of Antarctic ice reduction. However, Rogan's perspective on the issue does not solely align with mainstream scientific consensus. He has been known to challenge conventional wisdom and question the motives behind certain narratives, including those related to climate change. Rogan's skepticism towards media sensationalism and alarmism could influence his interpretation of data and scientific findings regarding Antarctic ice reduction. Moreover, Rogan emphasizes the importance of pragmatic solutions and technological innovation in addressing environmental challenges. He has expressed interest in renewable energy technologies, such as solar and wind power, as potential alternatives to fossil fuels. Rogan's advocacy for practical approaches to sustainability and conservation could inform his views on mitigating the impacts of Antarctic ice loss while balancing economic and social considerations. In discussing the reduction of ice in Antarctica, Rogan also explores the broader implications for geopolitics, resource exploitation, and international cooperation. The melting of polar ice could open up new shipping routes, access to natural resources, and territorial disputes among nations. But that's not all. Rogan also scrutinizes the geopolitical dynamics at play in the Antarctic region and the implications for global stability and governance. Overall, Joe Rogan's perspective on the reduction of ice in Antarctica is likely to be informed by a combination of scientific evidence, critical thinking, and skepticism toward mainstream narratives. While he may acknowledge the reality of climate change and its impacts on polar regions, Rogan also challenges prevailing narratives and advocates for pragmatic solutions based on data-driven analysis and open-minded inquiry. As a cultural influencer with a vast audience, Rogan's engagement with environmental issues can contribute to broader public awareness and discourse on the urgency of addressing climate change and protecting the planet's fragile ecosystems, including the ice covers of Antarctica. Joe Rogan's opinion means one thing for the rest of us. In the face of these ominous events, urgent action is needed to handle the drivers of climate change and protect Antarctica's fragile ecosystems. This includes reducing greenhouse gas emissions, implementing sustainable practices, and ramping up efforts to conserve and study this unique and irreplaceable wilderness. The time to act is now before we reach a point of no return and irreversibly alter the delicate balance of our planet's climate system. Please hit the like button, let us know your thoughts in the comments section, and don't forget to share with your friends. To enjoy more engaging videos like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching,